The cup cozies, or cup sleeves, have dried. They only took a few hours. I put them in front of a fan. So here is the steampunk looking one, and here is what we're going to use as the arts and crafts. Okay, start with this one. I want to take a look, and I actually quite like it. It doesn't seem to need any needle felting. I like the veiny looks. If I needle felt it, that might become too matte into the project, and I like this. I like the way it is. However, just move this here. I found that this one, the one that I want to do for arts and crafts, still has some bumps in it from the rolling that I did. And that's fine if that's what I want. But I do want to do a little needle felting here. And it just will be a demonstration on needle felting. I use a yoga block. There are blocks that you can use. Here I have a 5 needle felting needle punch, and this one is 7. This is my very favorite one that is 1, and it's actually quite bent, so I better get a new favorite one soon. So you can just needle felt, and all of these needles have little barbs on the end, so it's a needle with a lot of needles on it. And it tangles the wool. So you can just do this, in straight, out straight, in straight, out straight. Or, here's my 5 needles, and I can do 5 times the work. Or my 7 needles. And see the other side, it just comes out a little bit. This is very nice. I like the way it is now. But if you did want to do some needle felting, that's how you would do it. I love this one. With this one, I've selected for embellishments some white embroidery floss. Embroidery floss usually comes in 8 strands all together, and you can use as many strands as you like. And then I've decided that I want to use 3 things, 3 big charms. One of them is the scissor charm. I also want to use yarn charm. And I haven't decided yet if I wanted to use which of these big beads to use. I'm probably going to go with this one. And I also have tons of clear seed beads. Okay. The design that I want to do will be very similar to this design and this design as well. This design I used a contrasting color embroidery floss, and this design I used very similar embroidery floss color to what's already there. So this added more of a textured look, where this adds color and texture. We're going to talk a little bit about design here as well. So for the steampunk and for the arts and crafts cuff, this is the design we're going to use. We're going to embroider a square and put seed beads in the center, and then embellishments just on the side of the box. It's a simple design, and it has a lot of things going on that you can practice. So you're going to be practicing with seed beads, with embroidery and with larger beads or charms. Okay, what I did for this is the floss had, they usually have 6 or 8. I think this one might have had 6. 6 strands in there. So what I did is I have 5 strands on a large eye needle, and that will be really nice for the embroidered part, the embroidered square, because this will show up. I think I've got 4 or 5 strands here, and that will show up. For the seed beads, I'm using a smaller needle, much smaller, with a smaller eye and only 1 strand, and I have not tied the strand at the end, so it's just the 1 strand. Where the larger one, I doubled it over and added a knot. So our 5 strands are really 10 strands. Okay. The first thing that I want to do is I know I want to do my box. So I'm going to look at my felting and decide which side is my right side. I like this gray. I'm just looking at the design. I like how this is, let's fit it onto the cup. I pre-fit it before so I could see what I was doing. So I decide which side I want, and I think I like this side because there's more mixture of the gray and the blue. This is still very nice, but this will be my right side. I want my button, the hole that I left there, and I actually made the hole a little larger, and I'm leaving that there, and I want it on the top. So I'm going to bring that over, and I want it snug. Round that out there and turn it over, and there, I like that very much. Right there. So this part will be my front and this will be my back. So I'll have a couple of different embellishment things to do there. So I'm going to work with this side and start sewing my square. I don't want the square to be perfect. I'm just going to come up from the back, move my other things out of the way. I want to make about a little less than 1 centimeter. Pull that through, not too tight. And I want my stitch space to be about the same size. Come up and then come back down. Negative space in art is just as important as the space that you create. Probably just need 1 more. Okay, so now I have to decide, do I want to make this look like an L or just move over? And I think I do want to make it look like an L. So I'm going to move over and come back down through that original stitch. So it looks like an L. So that will give it more of a clear looking square. You can do any shape that you want. You want to keep it simple. And use a couple of strands, at least 2 strands, because you want it to be noticeable. Okay. And I'm going to make that L again. Go back down. And again, up. This is very basic embroidery. I'm going to make that L again. Wool is so warm. And what I'm going to do is make that L. So I'll just have to add a tiny bit on to that very first stitch that I did. Trying to come up into the center of it and come right back down. So there it is. We want progress, not perfect. It looks pretty good. It's the frame for our seed beads. If you wanted to add another little embellishment here, you could add a little French knot. So to make a French knot here, so I'll make the French knot right in that corner. So I start with my floss on my good side. I'm going to hold the floss out a little bit and wrap it around. You only need to wrap it around 2 or 3 times around your needle, and then don't go in the same hole, but go very close. Push it through, and very carefully you want to create that knot. And there it is, a very darling French knot. That's good. I'm only going to do one there. But you can do the whole thing. If you don't have seed beads, you can do the whole thing as French knots. So I'm just going to turn it over to the wrong side, and I'm just going to, like you're sewing anything, just make a knot and catch it. There we go. And then, with my handy dandy scissors, here we go. So that needle was a large whole needle, it was a larger needle, so I can get several strands in there and double it up. And there we go. So that's just the square. That's our frame. Now I want to add some seed beads. I love this part. This is very relaxing. So I have my very thin needle here. Very small needle, very delicate. And so very carefully, I'm going to come up through the back. If you want to secure before you start, just go into the back and then secure it just with a couple of little stitches. Nobody's going to see this side. And now I turn it over. So I'm just going to pop up anywhere. And here we're using the negative space to our advantage as well. By how I do this is I design as if I'm doing a triangle, so 3 together, and then I move on so that I know that I can have reasonably similar spacing. So I've just taken a bead. When I make kits, I always give more beads than you're going to need because of this reason here. Sometimes you cannot get that bead over the, there we go. You can't get it over the needle. So now I'm going to go, I'll save that for something else. I save beads like that, put them in like a big bowl, and then you can glue the tip of a pen and make some nice designs on pens, just rolling the gluey tip of pen into seed beads. So here the seed bead went on just fine. And I'm going to put it so it's all the way down to the end, and then I'm just going to poke the needle back in just to secure it. Here it is. That's secure. Now I'm going to make, like I said, a triangle. So I'm going to do this first bead, next bead, next bead. Come up from the bottom. Again, I'm using about the size of the stitch and the size of the space will probably be what I'm going to go for the size or the difference between where the beads are. And the reason for that, again, it looks very equal to each other. So the bead actually went on. So I can poke it through. You could do 2 beads at a time if you want. There's the second bead. And I'm going to come up to make a triangle. Grab another bead. Oh, this one might not go on. Oh, it did. And go right back down. I find anywhere between 40 and 60 beads work well in this type of size box. So I've made a square, or a triangle. Now I'm going to do another triangle using those 2. Oh, 2 went on. Let's look at what happened there. So we've got 2, and that's fine. Oh, but it won't go on. So I'm going to pull it back off, and that will go into my pen bead bowl. Let's see, is that going to go on? Yep. And right back down. That almost looks like a diamond. And then poke up again. If it doesn't go on, try and give it a little push, but or pull it down. See, that one's not going to go on. If it doesn't go on immediately after you give it a good pull, yeah, that one went on fine. That's why you use these teeny little needles. That one disappeared underneath the fiber. So I might even do a little bit of needle felting there, or start putting on 2 beads so that the beads can be seen. Oh, not going to pop through. Might have to switch to even a smaller needle. Too many of them aren't going on. There we go. Is that going to go on? Okay. Here we go. Oops. Alrighty. I almost lost my thread and needle. There we go. Okay, I'm going to continue, and I'm going to fill up my square with seed beads. I'm going to keep them similar distance apart. Here we go. Like this, similar distance apart. And I'm going to continue on. It'll probably take me another 30 minutes. And then I'll meet you here, which will be a moment in video time. And then we'll move on to the charms. I finished the square with the pretty clear beads in them. I doubled it up a couple times just to see how they would look. Next, when making a design, it's always nice to look at the rule of thirds or the rule of odds. So that means one element, it's a little bit more pleasing to the eye than looking at 2 or 4 elements. That's not saying that you always have to use odds, but for this project we are going to do that. So I only want 1 bead, and I think I want to stay with the crystal looking beads. Let's see. And I'm going to put that somewhere on the outside. So my rule of thirds, let's see where I want to put my beads and my, like, do I want it like that, or closer to each other, or one inside, or on the other side? Do that. So I'm just playing with these to see where I want the charm and these beads. I think I am going to keep them apart like this. So I am going to put one element here and two elements here. Now where do I want that? Do I want it inside? That looks neat. I like that. Maybe I do want this over here. That's what I've decided on. So I'm going to put the scissor on the inside of the box, and I'm going to put the yarn charm on the outside and the bead on the outside. Okay. For this, I'm going to use my larger needle with the thread, and I'm going to come through the back. Either tie a knot or just pay attention to where the tail is, and you can either sew that in later or tie it on. There we go. And that goes in there, and I'm just going to come down here, and I'll probably tie it onto the back while there we go. So I'm just going to turn that over and tie this on the back, and then I can do a little snip later. There, that's going to stay nice and secure. Maybe I'll just come up one more time. See if I can get it through. I have to really pull that. There we go. And come right back down. Okay. There. So that's secure. That's on there. Now I've decided to put the scissor, make sure to see, does it have a good side and a bad side? Like the right side, wrong side? It really doesn't, but I'm going to do this. So I'm going to put that there. I want to have that hanging on the inside. So I'm just going to pop up, and it's okay if it goes over any of the seed beads because it is going to dangle. And come back through. There we go. One stitch will be plenty, and then I shall, on the back, just secure it and give it a little knot. There we go. And now I'm going to come back up here underneath the bead, letting my next project interfere, and get the charm that says yarn, and that really only needs to be hooked. You can do several of them if you like, but then it gets bulky and it's really not necessary. Probably not going to skydive with coffee or tea. And then just one more knot. And clip it off. Okay. There we go. That looks really nice. I like that. You can secure it, but I like it this way. So it's got my theme. I'm a maker. So I have my scissors and my yarn and my beads. And you see the organic edge? You know, you've seen organic edge wood. That's what this is. Okay, now I can either needle felt this together or sew it. Try a little bit. Even a little bit of needle felting will at least start it to attach to the other side. So if I do want to sew it, see, it's not going to be totally secure, but it is somewhat secure. And then I can sew it or needle felt it. Let's try felting it a little bit more. Whoops. Organize the needles. Okay. So here I can get my 5 or 7. There we go. And felt that together. Or sew it. Or both. There. That looks amazing. That is so neat. That. It's warm, it's cozy. If it doesn't quite fit, all you have to do is add some hot soapy water again, and this will shrink. I like it. I like the way it looks. Here we are. Time for our steampunk coffee cup cozy. For embellishments, I have loads of gears and keys. I want to keep it rather consistent looking, so I won't be using the silver or the gold or copper looking beads. I won't be doing that. I want to match this antique looking copper. And I want to use my rule of 3s. So let's see, what did I select? You can use embroidery floss or even just some regular thread, sewing thread. If you do use regular sewing thread, remember to double, triple, or quadruple it up, because the box that we're going to make, the frame that we're going to make, we really want it to stand out. So I'm just going to put my floss aside. As far as embellishments go, I selected this key. I thought that was very nice. And I wanted the gears to look as if they were attached to each other. And then I've got these beautiful, deep, shiny, brown, coffee-looking colored seed beads to go with it. And I selected green embroidery floss because I thought that complemented it very well. You can go with what I did here and use a very contrasting color or the green complementary color. Contrasts and complements. Okay. For this one, I'm going to make the square different. Instead of making stitches, I'm going to make French knots. So when I first look to see which side I like, this is nice, but I think it's got a little too much red. I like this side. Now, do I want to make this, I usually make this in the back, but for this one, I'm going to make where it attaches the front. So let's see, where do I want to do that? Where's my cup? Okay. So here, it will be very close together. Actually, you know what I want to do? Because, see how fluid this is? You change your mind. I want to do this, so it's just going to come over just slightly. I quite like that. Okay, so I'm going to needle felt this together. So I'm just going to, just a single needle, just to tangle it together, just enough to hold it. See, just enough to hold it. And the other side. Let's see. There we go. Just enough. There we go. Now I'm going to go through, but I don't want to go through the other end. I just want to tangle it so it stays together. Just 4 spots is good. Good. So now I've got my cuff, my coffee sleeve. And I'm going to be working the part that I put together as the front. So to start, I'm going to use my large needle, and I've doubled up 5 strands. And I'm going to start at the bottom and pop it in, bring it up, and I'm going to do a French knot. So I'm going to hold my floss, wrap around 2 times, because this is really thick floss, it doesn't need 3 times, and then pop it in again beside where I came up, and then just pop, and there's a nice French knot. I'm going to do that again. I'm going to come up, remember I want to use that negative space, and I want to frame the seed beads. 1, 2, and pop that right back down. I'm still holding the floss. If I pull too tight through, the knot will just pop right to the opposite side. Like this. It's looking good. I like the white creamy color, the contrast to the deep green floss. I'm going to hold it, wrap around 2 times, and then pop it in beside where I came up. And it's going to create a really nice knot. There's 3 French knots. That's beautiful. Doing it again, coming up. I want my pieces, I'm sewing them together with embroidery and French knots. Wrap around 2 times, pop through beside the hole that I came up, and then down. And again, up. Wrap around twice, hold the thread, the floss, interchangeable words, interchangeable craft words. Here we go. I'm loving it. I'm going to decide, where do I want my gears? Wrap around 2 times. This almost has a bustier look to it, which is very Victorian, Edwardian, steampunk. See? A little bit of a bustier look. I'll do 2 more. Wrap around. French knots are so pretty. And I'll do 1 more to secure the little bit at the top. There. Make sure that I went through both layers. Wrap around twice. and bring it around through the back. There we go. That looks so awesome. I love this. Looking on the other side, we've stitched it up. Looks great. Okay, I'm going to leave this in here because I will be using this again. But now I'm going to switch over to my very small needle with 1 strand of floss for my seed beads. This is a rather large one. Let me just break that off. Okay. So now I'm going to look. I want to frame. Where do I want to frame? Do I want it on this side, which has got more of a darker feel, or this side? I think I want to work with this side because I have more contrast going with the color, and I believe those seed beads will look much nicer on the red and the white. It'll still look good on the brown if I used this side, but they'll pop more when I use this color. So I'm just going to move my seed beads over to my hand. So my frame is going to be, instead of making the box, my frame will be all of the French knots and then the gears and the key. So I'm going to pop up and pull my thread through, not all the way, and then grab a seed bead, hope it goes over, which it did, and then just pop it right in, just like we did with the crafty one. Here we go. I'm going to try and make the distance between the seed beads, oh there's 2, that's fine, I like that, around the same distance of the empty space, the negative space between the French knots. Okay, so I'm going to continue this on probably another 20 or 30 minutes, and I want to fill about this much of the area with seed beads. And I'll meet you back here in a moment to put on the gears and the key. So here we have our seed beads and the French knots, nice and secure. And now it's time to add our gears. So I'm going to play with this to see where I want the gears. Do I want it like that? Let's see. And then the key here, or the key here. I like that. So that's a good frame. So here we have the gears. I might want to put, no, I like that one the way I had it. So I'm going to put the gears here and the keys and the French knots, and they frame all the seed beads. Nice shiny seed beads. Okay. I will start with the medium sized, and I just want to come up into the center and then down into one of the spokes. Oops, there we go. And that's good right there. I'm going to just put a little stitch in the back to secure it, and then I'll move on to the next gear. Okay, I'm going to have the small gear just a little higher, and I'm going to attach that by the top. So I'm just going to come up and then right down into the center, or not into the center, but into the top, as if I was hanging in the frame of a picture. and then just secure with a little stitch in the back. And now the larger gear, yep, this side, right there. I'm going to come up through the center. Sure. Up through the center, and then just secure one of the spokes. And a little stitch at the back. And then lastly, I'm going to put the key on the bottom. Nice and loose. I'm not pulling too tight. And come to the inside and just secure. There we go. Snip. Okay, let's try it on. See what we got. I like it. Oh, that's nice. Look at that. The cup has a wool coat or a wool sleeve or a sweater. That is very nice. I like that a lot. So here we have 4 examples of tea or coffee cup to-go cozies. It's nice to embellish them with the theme that you like. If you're into steampunk, these are nice. You just want just the theme of coffee colors, or if you're like me and you like the nice craft looking coffee cozy. There you are.